Nobody really likes or looks forward to moving a rug on a frame, but if you have a small frame and a larger rug, it's something that you need to do. This piece here is made with finer fibers. It's made with things like this synthetic novelty yarn that's like a ribbon. This fun fiber is wider with all kinds of fuzz on it and glitter going down the middle. This is a wool yarn with silk sari spun into it. So if you're using fibers like this, you really need to use a carpet tack frame to move your piece so you don't pull out your loops when you move it. The rug I'm going to use to demonstrate on from how to move is actually really made with sturdy fibers, but it's okay, it'll be good for the demonstration anyway. The gray areas are made with a sturdy 3-ply rug yarn, and all the colors are punched with strips of wool fabric. Just to reassure you that you don't have to worry about moving your rug on a frame, this rug has been moved over 20 times. I use it to demonstrate how to move a rug on a frame in all of my classes, and as you can see, it's held up just fine. You want to plan ahead so you move your rug on the frame as few times as possible. I started here, this was my section 1, and then I moved it 1, 2, this will be 3 times, that's what I'll do next, and then I'll have to move it 2 more times, so that'll be section 4 and section 5. So when I go to work on my next section right here, I don't want to put the part that I've punched on top of these nails. So what I'm going to do, I'm actually just going to leave the felt on these places to protect my work on these 2 sides, and I'm going to take the felt off of these 2 sides, so this is the part I'll stretch. This part, what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to nail it on. Before I nail the rug to the frame, I want to secure this felt so it stays put. So I'm going to staple it on. I've got 3/8 inch staples in here, and I'm going to put 4 on a side. So now I'm going to lay the rug on there just the way I want it. Going to work on this section. And you want to line it up so you can hook every bit of it. Like this little bit is actually on the frame. So I'm going to move it over just a tad. And now I'm not touching the frame. But I'm touching the frame here, so I'm just going to move it up a little bit. There we go, that's better. So I'm going to have a look at my rug, and it's really important that it stay the same shape. I moved a rug once and it went nice and straight, and then it went off just at a little bit of an angle, and I thought I could block it to fix it, but I couldn't. It always stayed that shape. So make sure that you keep this nice and straight. Also, it's very important that this straight line be parallel to the straight line of your frame. The way I like to do that is with a yardstick. And if you have a look, this gray line here, the inner one, is the line that goes right on the black Sharpie line. So I'm going to line my yardstick up all the way to the back there, and I'm going to pull this so it's straight. And if you start with it straight, you'll be in good shape. I'm also going to look at this and make sure that my circles have stayed in nice shape, which they have. Okay, so what I want to do now is get this part on the monk's cloth. I can't pull it at all this way or it's going to go off at an angle, so I'm just going to pull that way. I'll get a hold of it, and I'm going to hold this down here, just pull it nice and hard like that. And I'm going to get this side on, and I'm going to pull it that way. And get those nails positioned so that this keeps its shape. You want these lines to be straight and these lines to be straight. There we go. One last check. And that looks pretty good to me. Just loosen it up a little bit there. So it's a little fussy. You just want to fuss with it and get it just the way you want. So I'm pleased with how it lines up, and I was very careful to stagger my ends so it wouldn't be obvious that I had ended everything right in the same place. So I just staggered them a little bit. I'm going to start by pulling in this direction, and I'm going to pull as hard as I can. And I'm going to very gently put my nail in between the loops, never through a loop. And I've got it positioned on top of the wood. And I'm going to nail in that nail. Oh, but before I do, I want to make sure that I've kept this line straight and that I have an equal amount of space between here, and I don't, so I'm just going to come up just a little bit. And I still don't have enough. There, that's better. So I'm going to pull it nice and hard. And with my pretty flowery hammer, I'm going to hammer it in. And just don't do what I did the first time, which is to hammer my frame into the table. So now I've got that in there nice and secure. I'm going to stretch it this way as hard as I can. And I'm going to keep this black line even with my frame. Okay, there we go. That looks straight. Now I'm going to pull on this corner. And I find it easier to pull if I roll it up a little bit. So I'm going to pull this way and that way simultaneously. And very carefully put in my nail. And I'm going to nail it into the wood. There we go. There we go. Okay, so I want to put nails about every 2 inches. So I'm going to put one right in between these two. Pull it nice and tight. And I can tell if I have it straight by just keeping an eye on this line. Just sort of wiggle it in there carefully. And go in the wood. I'm just going to kind of go back and forth. I've got a nail in there, so I'm going to pull it here. I'm going to pull it here. Now I'm going to put a nail in here. Pull it nice and tight. Try not to nail it to the table. across from that. And I'm going to put one in between the two. Between these two. And put one between these two. And one between these two. So that's not exactly every 2 inches, but it's close enough. I'm going to pull this tight now. And I'm keeping an eye on that, trying to keep that straight. And now I'm going to tighten up this side. And that's sort of an awkward reach, so I'm going to turn it around. And see how this line is going curved, so I'm going to pull this way. So think of this as just fudging. This line is crooked, so I'm going to pull this that way. Remember to be careful of those carpet tacks. Okay, so now I'm going to put one in here, and I'm just going to pull it as hard as I can. Wiggle that nail through. Pull it tight and put one in the middle. You see how much I'm pulling it? I'm really tugging on it. I'm going to put one in there. And go in between the two. Stretch it nice and tight. Sometimes you stretch it and then the nail isn't in the right place anymore. So you just move your nail around. And you know what? Forget about what I said about a nail every 2 inches. I think that's plenty. We're going to go with that. This one is not in there hard enough. There. So now it's still pretty loose, so we're going to work on tightening it up. Now that we have it on here, we're going to tighten it on those sides. And I didn't hammer that in hard enough. So if I can do this, anyone can do it. To get it tight, I'm just going to sit down, and I don't want to pull it that way really because that line is pretty nice and straight. So I'm just going to pull it this way. And I want to look at my shape, and they look nice and round, and it's nice and tight. So I think that will be just fine. The last step is just to cover up those carpet tacks with your felt padding on the two sides to protect your hands while you work, and you're just going to staple that down, and make sure to put your staples in this way. If you put them in this way, this can flip-flop and you can cut yourself, so put them in like that. To take your rug off the frame, first release the two sides where you have monk's cloth on the frame, and then you're going to take out these nails. Just be careful. What I like to do is push down the punching first, and then there's less stress on the loops, and I'm just going to very carefully wiggle out that nail. So go ahead and take all of your nails out. This process obviously is a little fiddly and fussy, but if you choose to be patient and follow through to the end, you will be rewarded with a gorgeous rug.